So the materials that we're going to need for this tutorial is some yarn. I've got two different colours. I've got, I think it's Soft Mist and Blush Pink, which is Paintbox yarn, Simply Chunky. And I've got the corresponding hook size, which is a 6mm crochet hook for this chunky weight or bulky weight yarn. Now I'm not making anything in particular, so I'm probably not going to cut my yarn. I will just unravel it as this is a practice piece. So to get started, we are going to make a slip knot and pop that onto our crochet hook. We are then going to simply chain 10. No, we're not. We're going to chain 11. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And very simply, all we're going to do is create a bit of a base for our work so that we can practice. So we're just going to do, in the second chain from hook, we're going to place a single crochet or a double crochet in UK terms into each chain along. And we're going to do 4 rows of this. So we simply just place a single crochet or a double crochet in UK terms into each chain along. Now you don't really want to watch me do 4 rows of this. So get your 4 rows done. Well, hit pause, make your 4 rows and pop on back and we will start making some spike stitches. So I've done my 4 rows of single crochet or double crochet in UK terms, and I'm simply going to change colour before I turn. So I'm just literally placing a loop with the tail yarn at the back and just pulling that through, tightening down with the grey, and then I'm going to chain 1 in my new colour. There we are, and that secures that in. I'm not going to work these tails in. And we are going to start our row after our chain 1 with a single crochet or a double crochet in UK terms. And now we're going to work these spike stitches. So spike stitches are literally worked exactly the same, just we insert our hook into a different point of our fabric that we're making. So we would normally carry on and do another row by placing our hook under the V of our stitch, but instead we can place it into the spaces into the other rows. So we have the row that we're currently working on. This is 1 row down, 2 rows down, and 3 rows down. If we had a longer fabric, we could make even bigger spike stitches. So for this spike stitch, we're going to insert our hook into the space underneath where our stitch would normally be. So instead of inserting our hook under that stitch there, we're simply going to work our hook into that space underneath the stitch. We're going to yarn over very loosely. Don't put too much tension on your yarn, because the important bit is to bring this loop up to the height of the row that you're working on without too much tension. If you pull too tight, you're going to gather your material. So once you're happy that your hook is at the right height, your yarn isn't too tight, we're just going to yarn over and pull through. So it doesn't look very much like a spike. If you had a row of them differing in heights, they would look absolutely beautiful. So as you can see, we've worked over that stitch, so we don't need to place another stitch there. So we're on the second stitch, so 1's there, just our normal double crochet or single crochet in US, and then we've spiked for the second stitch, and we could do a normal double crochet into the next stitch just by working under the normal loops. And you can see that this stitch looks longer than the 2 next to it. Perhaps we can try a bigger spike. So grabbing my needle again, there's our next stitch to work into. There's 1 row down. How about we do 2 rows down? So if you need to see where you've got to insert your hook, pull your fabric apart slightly. There's our stitch, there's 1 and there's 2 rows down. So we're just going to insert our hook, not too much tension on our working yarn, bring that loop through and draw it up to the height of the row we're working on. We're going to yarn over, pull through both loops on our hook, and wow, that's quite a long stitch, isn't it? Again, if you placed in a normal stitch next to that, you can really see that height difference, and it really looks quite stunning, doesn't it? Should we do it? Should we do the 3-row spike? So there's our normal stitch, 1, 2, there's the 3rd hole. So if we insert our hook in, I'm turning my work so I can see where I'm grabbing my yarn. I'm going to bring that loop all the way up. You can adjust your tension, but just don't have it too tight. And remember, you want your hook at the row, you want your hook at the height of the row that you're working on without pulling up. See how that's pulling up slightly? So you can play around with it a little bit, then yarn over and pull through both loops. It's quite a big stitch, isn't it? Now I'm going to undo this because you can undo yours as well if you'd like, because we're going just back to that first double crochet, because let's make it a bit of a pattern, okay? So we've placed our double crochet into our first stitch. We're then going to work into 1 row down with a spike, which will be written in a pattern as an SP, DC or SC, depending on your UK or US terms. Then we're going to do the 3rd row spike. So there's 1, 2, 3. We're going to insert our hook, yarn over, draw up a loop, yarn over, pull through, followed by a 2nd row. We just insert into that 2nd row down, followed by a normal double crochet or a single crochet. And as you can see, it kind of creates almost a type of chevron. We can repeat that again. So we've done our double crochet. We're going to do 1 row down. 1, 2, 2nd row down. Remember to bring up that loop, making sure it's not overly tight. And then we're going to go 1, 2, 1 row down. And finally, a normal double crochet. And that's quite a lovely border. It works as a great border for blankets. You just need to make sure you've got the right number of stitches. So I was right with chaining 10 at the beginning. But as you can see, that is how you create a double crochet or a single crochet spiked stitch. Now you can work this spike stitch with any number of the basic stitches. It obviously just means that the top half of the stitch here is bigger, but you'll still have the same effect here. So you can carry on having a play around, do more rows, change colours again. You could change colours and do another row of spikes on top of this, maybe doing it opposite. You could bring your grey down or whatever other colour you're using in between these stitches, because the next holes are here next to the stitch there. But for me, I think it's absolutely stunning the way it looks. You could almost then do another 3 or 4 rows of your main colour and then do another row of spikes. Possibilities are endless as this one. I absolutely love it. I did feature the spike stitch in one of my most recent pattern releases. I'll give you a quick glance at this. And this is using the linen stitch, featuring a 2nd row spike stitch as well. And it really looks quite dramatic, doesn't it, when you have them so close together? But it really does work wonderful as an edging to a blanket too. So I hope that you've really enjoyed this crochet tutorial. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm sure you've already hit that subscribe button, and of course give the video a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you again very soon for another one of my crochet tutorials.